important people here in our Brady Bunch screen. I've got up there, I see Rick from the Brewers. Hello, Rick. Peter Fagan for the Bucks. Mark Murphy for the Green Bay Packers. Let me see. On the bottom, we have Brad Smith, president of Microsoft. Brad, nice to see you. Israel Squires and Cordero Barkley from Titletown Tech. Hello, everyone. I can't believe we put this whole group together, so I really want to thank you all for being here. Mark, Peter, and Rick, actually kind of a lighter question for you. I bet you people think that you guys know each other pretty well. Do you? Like, do you guys hang out? Do you have dinner? What's your relationship?
Well, I think we definitely talk to each other. I would say we're somewhere between hanging out and knowing each other. So whatever that middle ground is in communication. But I think the best thing, and this program leans towards, is we kind of all have shared goals of creating opportunities. We are all very committed to Wisconsin, and we're committed to our players and our organizations in a big way. So I think our interests probably bring us closer together.
You know, I'll let one of you other guys chime in on this too. What I see is I see that in the players maybe more often than I used to. I mean, I'm born and raised Wisconsin as well. It seems like, you know, having Aaron Rodgers and Bakhtiari or whatever at a Bucks game, or the relationship, Rick, between some of your all-stars and the other all-stars that we've had, or MVPs rather. I mean, it seems like the guys are sort of collegial as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Vince. And, you know, actually, I think Aaron's part owner. That's very unique in the professional sports world. But yeah, you know, we talk quite a bit. I have trouble getting these guys to come up to Green Bay, especially in the winter. But, you know, I think the conversations we've had, and, you know, to me, it's really unique that three teams are coming together the way we are. And especially for a social justice issue. That's something where actually over the last 6 months or so, we've talked a little bit more often about different things that we might be able to do. And this opportunity really presented itself, I think, in the perfect time. And it's something we're all really excited about.
Well, let me get into what Equity League is, and then we'll talk a little bit more about how it came to be and the involvement of the teams. So maybe this is a Cordero or an Israel question. What exactly is Equity League?
Yeah, I'll take this question. So the Equity League is an investment network. You know, it's a VC play. We're looking to build a portfolio of impact-driven technology companies with a focus on Black and Latinx founders. You know, it's a long-term play, and hoping to play a role, right, and be a catalyst for change in the venture capital space and trying to solve some of the inequities that exist. So it's a long-term play. You know, we hope to create sustainable change and create a revolving door of investment, impact, return on investment, and more impact.
Cordero, you're coming from the banking industry as well. You've been with Titletown Tech for the longest here of this group here. Can you talk a little bit about, I just read an article about African Americans and financial literacy, and that was a barrier to more people of color ascending in higher levels in companies, having access to venture capital. Is that your experience, and how are you working to fix that through this program?
That's a great question, Vince. Certainly, I mean, you look at, you know, generations and decades of, you know, the same systemic issues that we discuss. And so when people in position to impact change have an opportunity to step up in this way, it's huge, right? So you look at even without a pandemic, capital doesn't flow, especially in the startup community, to certain groups of people. When you look at people of color, they don't get access to the same funds for the same technology or the same type of problems they're solving. And so when you add uncertainty, people tend to go back to what they're comfortable with. And that even slows down the flow of income or capital even more. So the opportunity to be able to present this and this opportunity and be able to kind of bury it, not bury a hatchet, but have an impact in this space in a meaningful way is very, very significant.
Brad, what is Microsoft's involvement in this, both in Titletown Tech and then in Equity League specifically under that? How did that connection initially happen on your end?
Well, the Equity League is an opportunity for us to really build on Titletown Tech and the partnership that the Packers and Microsoft started. You know, our two organizations together put in $10 million into what is now a $25 million investment fund that has been really off to a great start. It's invested in 21 companies. I'm excited that it's led 2 companies to relocate to Green Bay. The Equity League, I think, is such an important opportunity for all of us to work together. I mean, for us at Microsoft, it provides the chance to partner with 3 great organizations from the world of sports to really break down barriers that we need to address. I mean, today, only 1% of venture funding is flowing to Black founders, only 2% to Latinx founders. I think working together, we can bring funding and support and technology that will really increase people's prospects for success.
Are there particular stories, Brad, Israel, or Cordero, that Titletown Tech has produced already that you hope will be the same thing Equity League will produce? Are there successes that you can point to specifically, 1 or 2 stories?
Well, I'll take this one. So just looking at it in general. So I think when you look at our group, we have a diverse group. We have a woman as Jill Enos, as a managing director. You have a African American in the position of a partner. Very unique to have both in the same venture firm. And so with that, I think we've had an underlying awareness of the opportunity that we could have to just be more aware of deals when they present themselves, an opportunity to invest in founders of color. Now we look at everything from our fund. Our thesis allows us to look at anyone, but I do think we have a heightened awareness. And you look at our fund, again, 17% of our initial investments have women founders, and then you look at another metric of 14% of our founders in our initial investments are founders of color. That's above the average, and we'll continue to trend that way.
And I'll say for somebody like me who grew up in Wisconsin but lives in Seattle, Titletown Tech has made very clear there is great entrepreneurial talent across the state of Wisconsin. And there is great entrepreneurial talent in the minority community as well. And so harnessing this financing and this energy to tap that talent, I think is an important step for people of color. It's also an important step for the state of Wisconsin.
Brad, did you have to drive that? I mean, you're out there on the West Coast. Did you have to tell people that story, being from Wisconsin?
Well, we have a company that by coincidence has a number of people that, like me, grew up rooting for the Bucks and the Brewers and the Packers. So there was an easy foundation on which to build. But what I've really found is, it's a story that tells itself. Once people have had the chance to go out and meet with these entrepreneurs that are working at Titletown Tech, we have one of our senior execs, he's a Minnesota Vikings fan, and this is bringing him to Green Bay just to see and work with the talented people who are there.
Well, I mean, it's for a good cause, so I guess we'll let him come. But otherwise, that's not a story we'll be promoting a lot, probably.
Vince, I want to just add one thing, and Brad mentioned it. Titletown Tech is our partnership between the Packers and Microsoft. Started a couple years ago. Really been pleased with it, but we see this as a natural extension of Titletown Tech. And I have to give a lot of credit to Craig Dickman, our managing director. He really saw the need for this, in terms of some of the companies that were coming forward, and we've invested, as Brad said, in a number, and we're hoping to have some success stories. But this really allows us to go into a different area and remove some of the barriers that we've seen, and so we're really excited about this opportunity. And as I said before, bringing together the 3 professional sports teams in Wisconsin is so unique that I think this has a chance to be extremely successful.
Let's talk about how that happened. Who called who first, and what was that first phone call like?
Well, I think Mark gave me a call and said, "Peter, call me back," which I usually do like right away. And I got him, and in Mark's way of being able to make the complicated simple, basically, I think in 30 or 45 seconds said, "Hey, we've got a way of creating opportunities amongst marginalized communities and people in Wisconsin. We've been talking for months with Rick about how do we take our 3 teams and really kind of affect change and kind of stand for social justice and equality. What are different ways we can invest?" And it was just kind of one of those very simple ideas that Mark laid out in somewhere between 45 seconds and 2 minutes that made perfect sense and was easy to sell in. And we didn't have to think about it too much because it really solved a lot of the things that we're looking to do. It's like we want to promote diversity of thought and experience. We want to look at investments. We want to have scalable social change. All of it was kind of pretty exciting. So we were in on the first date.
Rick, what was that call like on your end?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty easy for us to buy into this. Mark Murphy, laid it out pretty quickly, and the fact that they have the infrastructure of Titletown Tech, they have the resources, they have the executives like Israel Cordero, ready to help. It's one thing to get together, but we actually want to see some impactful results. And this is already in the works, and they've already had successes with other businesses. For us to join in was very easy because we can see and engage and measure what we're going to do here and know that the infrastructure is there to build on a really successful entrepreneurial opportunity for a lot of people in this state who have never been given those opportunities.
Rick, Mark, Peter, let me take you back to late summer when the social justice movement among athletes was really on fire, and your locker rooms, all of your rooms, played a really important role in moving that forward. I mean, Peter, your guys didn't take the floor for a playoff game. Can you go back to those moments and talk a little bit about where those emotions were? Were you there and around the guys, and what happened on that day and the days after? And I'll get to each of you with that.
Yeah, I think it was a moment in history, that really affected change and thought like going forward. I think one of the interesting things, because we're all on the phone, is within 48 hours and within hours, our players were talking to each other. So Christian Yelich, Aaron Rodgers, the whole, Chris Middleton, our coaches were together, our GMs were together. We had a call within a few days of probably a dozen of us that were the coaches, the GMs, and the three of us on the phone of like, how can we organize? How can we support? How could we resource in a way? So that alone had never happened before as really a catalyst. And it really laid the groundwork for things like this to happen. So it was one of those amazing events. And for us, it's how do we sustain it? How do we actually build it, make it scalable, and kind of learn from it. So it was kind of an awesome summer for us to forge our partnerships like through that event.
And Rick, your guys didn't take the field shortly after what happened with the Bucks. Can you take us into the emotions that were around Miller Park?
Yeah, I think, what's interesting is, our players and our coaches come from, very different backgrounds, all types of political persuasions, but this was something that was a unanimous decision by our players and coaches. It was the right thing to do. And, I think our players by definition, is probably shy away from, overt political activism. They just haven't been sort of, indoctrinated or invested in that kind of thinking. And this summer obviously changed the hearts and minds of a lot of people. And I think we recognize as sports teams, we have a voice, our players have a voice, people listen. And, the time is now for players to really become involved and lend their voice to issues. And again, it doesn't have to be political. I think everybody understands that there are some serious issues, both locally, not just in Kenosha, not just in Milwaukee, not just in Wisconsin, but everybody recognizes there's got to be some systemic changes. And it was great that the Bucks took the lead. They didn't do it idly or lightly, and our players really responded well. And I think it was not a very difficult decision for our players to support the initial Bucks decision to not play the game and make a statement.
And Mark, I think in your case, you were in camp, I believe, if I'm correct on that, and the guys decided not to take the practice field per se, but wanted to show that solidarity. Is that about right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and obviously the flashpoint was the Jacob Blake shooting. I mean, right in our backyard. It was as emotional as I've seen our team. I had a chance to sit down with the entire team, and I bet we spent, over an hour just talking about all the different issues, and really made a big impression on me. And what was really and our white players and black players were all in unison. And I think, what I came away with, it was kind of an attitude, enough is enough. We need to stop talking and actually start doing some things. that's where I think the timing was really perfect for all of us and for this to come together. And as we mentioned before, I think it's just a natural extension of what we've already started with Titletown Tech.
So whether we're talking about Microsoft or the Brewers, the Bucks, the Packers, everybody has charities that they've adopted. Whether, Rick, I think of you guys and Habitat for Humanity or Hunger Task Force. We're putting food on the table. They're doing other things. Not to denigrate any of those things, but we use the word systemic. Is that where the genesis is from this, trying to get at those root causes instead of Band-Aids?
Well, I think sorry, go ahead, Brad.
No, go. You first. I'll follow.
Yeah, I think for all of us, like, we are deeply ingrained in the communities in such a way. We've had a history of decades of being involved. And for us, how do we really focus our efforts, our capital towards equity? And you know what I mean, that in using the words, both meanings of it, in value and equality among the people and our players and our communities in a big way. So this is a systemic thing. I think we're all focused on affecting change and really having building blocks to make a difference through our platforms in a big way. So yeah, and this is a great program because, like Rick said, I mean, this exists. This has proof of product, proof of process, and like we can invest and kind of just help evolve it to even a bigger level, which is great.
Brad, this isn't going to be a tomorrow fix, right? We donate a whole bunch of money and we put some food on the table. That's tomorrow. This is long term.
Well, it needs to be long term because, let's face it, we're in the first year of the 5th century of, a history of systemic racism in the United States. And I think sometimes people say, well, I don't understand this. I don't discriminate. But I think what's important to recognize is that all of these centuries have left us with these barriers that people of color need to overcome. We see it in the numbers, the fact that so little venture capital flows to people of color. At Microsoft, we see it across the country. If you're a young Black student, you're far less likely to ever even have the chance to study something like computer science in high school. So this really fits into a broader array of steps that we need to take. And I think this is really quite a historic one in terms of having organizations come together from different sports and different parts of the economy, different parts of the country, but to really make a difference in Wisconsin.
Rick, Peter, Mark, are your players already involved in this? Have you shared with any of them to any degree what's happening here? And if so, what is their level of excitement about that? Or if not, how will you engage your players?
Yeah, this is Rick. We are going to talk. We've had some discussions with some of our players. It's a little difficult because our season's in the off season and our players are scattered, but we've already had a number of conversations with some of our players who want to do things in Wisconsin and want to do things in Milwaukee. One of the things that was attractive to our players was, listen, we think the Brewers do great with nonprofits. We think, there's a role for government, but this is an example of private enterprise where we're really funding companies. We want these companies to be successful and make profits. And there's nothing wrong with being a successful for-profit company. These people are going to provide jobs. They're going to provide education, training, and really guideposts for other minorities to look up and say, wow, there's a successful businessman who looks like me, or comes from my neighborhood. And that really is something that our players are really responsive to. And that's why we think we're going to have a lot of player involvement, both as support for Equity League and potentially as investors.
Peter, Mark, do you feel like this is the kind of thing that players were asking for? It's one thing to get attention for taking game action or whatever, but do you feel like this is the kind of thing that players have been asking the organization to support?
Absolutely, from my perspective. And I don't know if they knew, they would have said this is specifically what we want, but something that can really make a difference. I think they're really. And we've had discussions, particularly with our leadership council, and I think similar to Rick. I think very interested in it. They'll support it, and I think eventually invest in it as well.
Yeah, for us too, Vince. I mean, we think we just talked on our pre-production call this morning about how to get Israel down to a players' meeting to really talk about the narrative. So this is going to be a good win for us.
want to be respectful of everybody's time here. So a couple more things and then we can wrap it up. I want to bring it down to the street level, and maybe this is a Cordero or Israel question. If I'm a single mom on the north side of Milwaukee thinking I've got a great idea, or I have something, I haven't been able to get over that hump, I haven't been able to follow my dream. That person is seeing this right now. What is her next step to access this opportunity?
Yeah. So first, one of the pillars behind the Equity League is that genius has no barriers, right? No matter where you come from, no matter what you look like, genius is evenly distributed. And what we're trying to do is be a catalyst of evenly distributing opportunity and access. So if you're a woman on the north side and you have an idea, well, contact us. We want to hear about that idea. We want to help you develop the steps. That's one of the things that we're doing. We have what we're calling proof of concept capital that we'll be distributing on an annual basis to replace what is referred to in the venture capital world as a friends and family round, right? To help be a catalyst for these ideas and help them build out the initial product, kind of that stage one, that phase one, get them to a real business, get them to a real stage, and then subsequently provide them with more funding and more resources. So if you think you have an idea, we want to open up to a certain extent, open up the floodgates to these ideas, see what happens, because the reality is that the ideas that we're looking for, the ideas that will really make a sustainable change and impact, likely will come from the people that are living it, breathing it, eating it. They're going to come up with the idea. That's where that genius is. So that's what we want to be. We want to be that catalyst and that opportunity. So contact us and go to our website. It's theequityleague.com. Send us a contact note. Send us a pitch deck if you have it. We're looking forward to taking in as many founders, as many business ideas, and vetting them, going through a diligence process, and really just communicating with as many social impact and technology-driven companies and founders that we possibly can.
Cordero, what do people need to do on the front end before they make that reach? I mean, they got to have some of their business straight before they're reaching out to you. You got any tips for what people need to have straight before they do that reach out?
Well, I think as the earlier stage that you go, when we look at the different stages of these companies, we would like to see a pitch deck, but I think a lot of times the conversations matter, right? And so being willing to just talk with someone and talk them through it, through an idea, and then maybe help them through a business plan. I do think some of the barriers is the education and the access to the knowledge of what it takes. So I don't want the thought process of that I have to have this buttoned up, dialed in, ultra refined business plan keep someone from reaching out. I'll also add, Israel's done a great job over the last couple of months. He's pounded the pavement. He's reached out to the contacts in Milwaukee. So it is going to be a collaborative approach. We're not going to sit in Green Bay and just kind of remotely do this. We'll be in Milwaukee. We're already connecting with a number of people in the startup space to make sure that we're listening to what they have for needs and not just talking to people.
What's that going to look like? Are we going to see a couple, maybe more companies here in Milwaukee, or new products being produced in Milwaukee, new dreams being realized here in Milwaukee because of this?
We would like to believe that's the goal. So I think that's the end game. If we can really collaborate and really surround these founders and these ideas with resources, and we talk about that connected capital model, where you have all of the resources of the organizations, the resources that come with Titletown Tech and Microsoft, that we can really sit down and collaborate with others and figure out what the needs are, and then surround them with those resources. Certainly believe that new technology will come to areas like Milwaukee, like Green Bay.
What will success? How will you all measure success? Let's say we get together in 6 months, which would be amazing. Maybe we catch up again 6 months from now. What would it take for you all to say, like, this is going in the right direction? This is success 6 months out.
Yeah, well, a lot of that's going to be dictated by the market, right? Just like any other venture capital play or fund, the market is going to speak to us, and we're going to adjust with the market. So success is having a portfolio of companies that is predominantly Black and Latinx founders, companies that we believe we can help scale with our resources and our network, and ultimately companies that we look at and say, you know what, if this company hits X milestone or Y milestone, the impact that it's going to have on this particular community or that particular community, or Milwaukee or Green Bay or Wisconsin in general, or St. Louis or Chicago, that's where we want to be. And it's going to take time, like we've talked about. It's a long-term play. You don't invest in a company today and then they, are sold and scaled in a few months. It takes time. So success for us is having a solid portfolio going, a few different founders, a few different companies in the network, helping them scale, and ultimately being a catalyst in the venture capital space itself. That's one of the beacons that we want to send out, is that we don't want to be the only venture capital play doing this. We want to set the example for how it's supposed to be done. And that's really the goal. That's success for us, is being a beacon for change.
Brad, it strikes me, I mean, you're part of a global titan, like Microsoft, and we're talking about one person here on the street level with a dream. I mean, do you have thoughts on that one person's dream, that one person's idea that can become something great?
Well, Microsoft was basically founded by just two people, one of whom never graduated from college, Bill Gates. So, if there's any company that has grown to be a global player based on the dreams of just a couple of people who started in the sort of proverbial garage, we're familiar with it. And I think what we recognize in the world today is that there are Black and Latinx dreamers that can do great things as well. We just need to help give them the funding and the technology support and the chance they deserve. So that's what this is all about.
All right, we're at 8 minutes after already, gentlemen. I appreciate your time so much. So let me just throw out there, are there things that we did not discuss, any particular pillars that you want to get out, anything that I didn't ask you that you wanted to say, and then we can go ahead and wrap it up?
Hey,
Yeah, Vince, maybe I would just add, I don't think we can overstate how important the involvement of Microsoft is in this. They're such a respected company, and they bring instant credibility, not only to Titletown Tech, but now to the Equity League. And it's you can't say enough about it, and it's really impressive. And obviously Brad has set the tone, but the entire organization really are committed to this, and just a pleasure to work with.
And we feel the same way. I mean, the partnership that we've had in Green Bay with the Packers, and now with the Bucks and the Brewers, is just an extraordinary opportunity, and we're really grateful for the chance to work together every day.
Hey, Vince, you want to take the time to maybe talk about the fellow role as well? We're talking about access, and we never left the fellow.
It's like we have a pretty bad thing going.
Yeah. Was that Cordero? Say that again.
Yeah. So I was asking Israel. We talked about access and getting people into the space. Never brought up the venture fellow role that's coming out of this. I think that's massive, and we totally did not even discuss that. So I don't know if you want to take a second and talk through that. Yeah,
go ahead. Let's hit that quick, and then I'll have one more thing for our sports guys, and then we'll go. So let's hit that quick. What that other role, Cordero?
I got you. So, one of the major inequities that exists in the venture capital space is bias in the decision-making process. Really, why that exists is because less than 5% of the decision makers are Black or Latinx, right? So there's this really bad, racial bias that is there, and we're hoping to play a role in solving that. Again, sending a beacon to the venture capital space. How we're doing that within Titletown Tech is we are hiring a minority venture fellow, someone that we want to bring into the space, be a catalyst for their career, teach them the game, and get them to make a difference. And I think that's how it is. That's how the true change is made. Bringing talent in, bringing more diversity. Peter said it really well. Diversity of thought. That's the key here. Diversity of thought in the decision-making process, whether it's deciding to invest, provide a company with resources, give them access to that friends and family capital, all those sorts of things are key to have diversity of thought.
Hey, Cordero, are we going to have an office in Milwaukee?
I think you promised one. I don't want to.
It might be good just to mention that.
Yeah. No, so great question, Mark. Yes, we do have office space established in Milwaukee. We do plan on coming to Milwaukee as it sits currently. We're in discussions with a few other players as well in regards to where that office space will be finalized. But we have a couple of people that stepped up and committed to office space in Milwaukee.
Great.
That's great. It's a good point. Last thing for you. Rick, Mark, Peter, I know there are some fans of your organizations who are like, why don't you just play baseball? Why don't you just play basketball? Why don't you just play football? What does this have to do with any of that? What is your response to those who don't necessarily see a connection with all of these other things?
Yeah, I can talk about that, Vince. Obviously, I think the one thing we all share among the organizations in this meeting is we all want to win championships, and you can focus on that goal, but also be good citizens. And I think each of our organizations has, since their founding, have always been connected to their communities, have always done things in the community. This to me is a meaningful way for us to recognize that we're citizens of a much larger thing. It's more than just winning. It's more than just making money and selling tickets and getting eyeballs. It's really being part of the community. And the better the community, the stronger the community, the healthier community, the better for all of us. And ultimately, we look at this as just another example of how the Brewers can reach out. We have been, the beneficiaries of some amazing benefits, financial and other, from our state and our community. Our ballpark was funded by the people of Wisconsin. We are supported by the people of Wisconsin. We always want to give back, and this to me is a meaningful way to do it, but an impactful way, and frankly, a unique way. For us to be involved in a for-profit enterprise, teaming up with great teams like the Bucks, Microsoft, and the Packers. We're very privileged to be part of this great group, and look forward to really successful outcomes for this.
Yeah, Vince, and I would follow up. We're all in privileged positions, and I think with that comes a responsibility. And we're not going to back down from that. There's a long history of sports standing up and speaking up for those that don't have a voice. And we've said it. I mean, Vince Lombardi is maybe one of the best examples. We stood up for his players, and there's a long history of people, sports leaders taking a stand. So we're not only excited to do it, we feel we have a responsibility to do so.
I echo both Rick and Mark. I mean, we have a global platform, among our three teams. We have an incredible voice. We have a responsibility, and we have an accountability to give back and to invest in the people, in our state, in our players, in our organizations. We've got to, creating equality and making this an equitable world is something that benefits everybody. So I think we're all on the same page.